The sun was slowly dipping behind the rooftops, painting the sky with soft streaks of peach and lavender. A gentle evening breeze rustled through the curtains of a little house at the edge of town, carrying with it the faint scent of freshly cut grass and blooming daisies. Inside that house, a small puppy named Max was curling his paws against a cozy quilt, his big brown eyes wide with excitement. Max had never been to the park before. He had heard about it in the cheerful chatter of birds outside his window and in the whispers of leaves when the wind passed through the trees. They spoke of wide, open fields that seemed to stretch forever, of tall oaks where squirrels played hide and seek, and of gentle ponds that reflected the stars at night. Max's tail wagged just thinking about it. That evening, his human softly clipped on his little blue collar and whispered, "Ready, Mac?" The words sent a thrill through the puppy's heart. He gave a tiny bark, not loud, but high and eager, as though his voice couldn't contain his excitement. The front door creaked open, and a world of scents drifted in, new and unfamiliar. Max's nose twitched, his ears perked, and his paws tapped eagerly against the wooden floor. As they stepped outside, the twilight air wrapped around him like a cool, gentle hug. Fireflies were beginning to blink awake, their little lights floating in the air like stars come down from the sky. The path toward the park stretched out ahead, lined with flowers leaning softly in the breeze. Max trotted forward, his tiny paws making the faintest patter against the sidewalk, his heart already leaping ahead to the wonders he imagined. The neighborhood was calm and quiet. A cat sat lazily on a porch, blinking at Max with slow, curious eyes. A pair of doves cooed from a rooftop, their wings glowing faintly in the fading light. Max tilted his head at everything, his tail wagging in gentle bursts, each new sight and sound a little wonder. His human chuckled softly, giving him a reassuring pat on the head. And then, as they turned the corner, Max saw it. The park. It was bigger than he had ever dreamed. Wide fields stretched into the distance, grass swaying like a green ocean in the evening breeze. Trees stood tall and patient, their branches stretching upward as though holding hands with the sky. Little lanterns glowed faintly along the pathways, lighting the way with a soft, golden warmth. Max stopped for a moment, his paws still, his eyes wide, his tiny heart swelled with wonder. The world he had known until now, his little house, the cozy yard, suddenly felt small compared to this great, open place. The park was alive with quiet magic, not loud or busy, but gentle, as though waiting for him to explore it slowly, paw by paw. He looked up at his human, who smiled down at him. "Go on, Max," they whispered. "It's all here, waiting for you." With a wag of his tail and a soft, eager step, Max padded into the park for the very first time. The grass bent gently under his paws, cool and soft, and the air carried whispers of adventure. His ears twitched as he listened to the quiet sounds of evening, and his little nose told him there were stories hidden everywhere, among the flowers, beneath the trees, along the winding path. Max didn't know yet what friends he might meet, or what gentle surprises the night might hold. But as the lanterns glowed brighter and the stars began to peek from the sky, he felt certain that this trip to the park would be more than just a walk. It would be a journey, filled with calm and wonder, leading him gently into dreams. Max's little paws pressed softly into the grass as he stepped further into the park, the cool blades brushing gently against his fur. The air seemed fresher here, filled with the scent of wildflowers and something sweet, like clover. The golden lanterns along the pathway flickered quietly, each one glowing as though it was there just to keep him company on his first adventure. He paused to look around, his tail swishing from side to side. The park was wide and peaceful, stretching out like a giant quilt of green stitched with winding path. In the distance, Max could hear the trickle of a fountain, its gentle sound like a lullaby carried on the breeze. He tilted his head, listening, his ears perked up like little flags catching the wind. As he trotted toward the fountain, Max noticed a soft rustling near a patch of daisies. He slowed his steps, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Out from the flowers hopped a small, gentle bunny with fur as white as snow. The bunny blinked her big brown eyes at Max, her ears standing tall, and then gave the tiniest little nod, as if to say hello. Max wagged his tail eagerly but carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Hello," he whispered in the quiet way puppies do, his voice soft and full of wonder. The bunny twitched her nose and replied in a voice as calm as the evening breeze. "Hello, little puppy, my name is Lila. You must be new here." Max's eyes sparkled. "Yes, it's my very first time in the park. It's so big and beautiful. Everything smells so new." Lila smiled gently, her whiskers trembling. "The park is full of little secrets," she said. "If you walk slowly, it will show them to you." Max tilted his head. "Secrets? What kind of secrets? Instead of answering right away, Lila hopped a little closer and motioned with her ears for Max to follow. He padded beside her, his steps light and careful. Together they reached the fountain, which stood in the middle of a small clearing. Its water sparkled silver in the glow of the lanterns, each droplet catching the light as though it was a tiny star falling softly into the pool below. Max leaned closer, his nose twitching at the cool mist. He saw that the fountain wasn't just bubbling, it was humming. The water made a soft, musical sound, like the faintest of lullabies. His ears flicked in delight. Lila watched him with kind eyes. Every evening, the fountain sings to the park, she explained. It helps all the little creatures know it's time to rest. Max listened, his tail wagging slowly. The song made his paws feel light, and his eyelids heavy, though he wasn't ready to sleep yet. It felt like the park itself was breathing softly, rocking everyone in its arms. From a branch above, a sleepy dove fluttered down and perched on the fountain's edge. His feathers were soft gray, glowing faintly in the lantern light. He gave Max a slow blink and cooed, "You're welcome here, little one. Tonight the park is yours to explore." Max's heart swelled with warmth. He had never felt so welcome, so gently held by the world around him. He wagged his tail and whispered, "Thank you." The bunny hopped closer and nudged him lightly. "Come on, Max," she said kindly. "There's more to see. The park is quiet, but it is never empty. If you listen closely, it will keep sharing its secrets with you." Max nodded eagerly, his ears perked, his paws ready to follow. He felt as though every lantern, every flower, every star above was waiting to show him something magical. And so, with Lila hopping beside him and the dove's lullaby still echoing softly in his heart, Max padded deeper into the park, his very first adventure unfolding beneath the starry sky. Max padded alongside Lila, his paws sinking softly into the grass as they followed the winding path deeper into the park. The lanterns above them swayed gently on their poles, their golden light spilling across the path like little pools of warmth. The air grew cooler as the night deepened, and the stars began to shimmer more brightly, peeking through the branches of the tall trees that lined the park. Max's little nose twitched as he picked up scents he had never smelled before: sweet clover, damp earth, and something faintly sugary, like honey. His tail wagged slowly, each new smell like a quiet story waiting to be told. Lila hopped beside him, her ears twitching every so often at the rustle of leaves. Together, they moved carefully, as though not to disturb the park's peaceful hum. After a while, they came to a part of the path that glowed differently. Instead of the golden lanterns, the stones themselves shone faintly under their paws. Each step Max took sent a ripple of light spreading outward, as though the ground was sprinkled with stars. He stopped and pressed his paw down again, watching the glow ripple and fade. Layla smiled softly. "This is the star path," she explained. "It only lights up for those who are walking their very first adventure here." Max's ears perked high. "For me?" The bunny nodded gently. "Yes, little puppy. The park knows you're here. Tonight, it's welcoming you." Max's tail wagged so hard he almost tumbled forward. He placed both paws firmly onto the star path, and the stones glowed brighter beneath him. Each paw step left a little shimmer that lingered like a twinkling memory before fading. He walked slower, savoring the way it felt to leave glowing footprints behind him, as if the stars themselves were following his steps. As they walked further along the path, the trees opened into a quiet clearing. Fireflies hovered here, hundreds of them, their lights blinking gently in the still night air. They floated in slow circles, their glow soft and steady, like little lanterns on wings. Max sat down, gazing in awe, his ears leaning back in wonder. One firefly drifted closer, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. It hovered right in front of Max's nose, and in a tiny, bell-like voice, it said, "Welcome, Max. We've been waiting for you." Max blinked, his whiskers twitching in surprise. You know my name?" The firefly's glow brightened with a gentle hum. "The park remembers every creature who visits for the first time. Tonight, your paw prints are written in its light." Lila hopped closer, her nose twitching. "The fireflies guide travelers to the quiet places," she told him. "Would you like to follow them?" Max wagged his tail and stood, his little heart full of excitement but also calm. "Yes, please," he whispered. The fireflies began to move, their lights blinking in a rhythm like the slow beat of a lullaby. They formed a shimmering trail that drifted ahead, winding between the trees. Max and Lila followed, the glow brushing across their fur and whiskers. The night around them seemed deeper here, softer, as though every shadow was wrapping them in comfort rather than mystery. As they walked, Max noticed shapes moving gently in the distance. A family of deer grazed quietly under the moonlight, their coats gleaming silver as they lifted their heads to watch him pass. A pair of owls sat on a branch, their round eyes glowing warmly, as if offering silent blessing. Even the breeze seemed to hush, carrying only the faint hum of the fountain far behind them. The trail of fireflies led them to a small pond at the very heart of the park. Its surface was still, like glass, and reflected the night sky so perfectly that Max almost thought he was staring into another world above. Stars shimmered in the water, brighter and closer, as though they had come down from the heavens to rest in the pond. Max leaned over the edge, his reflection joining the stars. His nose brushed the cool surface, and tiny ripples spread outward, making the stars dance. He giggled softly in his puppy way, his tail swishing. "It looks like I'm inside the sky," he whispered. The firefly hovered above the water and spoke gently. "This is the dreaming pond. When you look into it, you can see the dreams waiting for you tonight." Max's ears twitched as he gazed deeper. The rippling water began to shimmer with shapes, images of soft blankets, twinkling stars, cozy nests, and glowing lanterns. He saw himself curling up under the trees, resting beside new friends, dreaming of adventures gentle and kind. His heart grew warmer with each vision, his paws growing lighter as if the pond was weaving dreams into him already. Lila leaned close, her voice calm and steady. "The pond reminds us that sleep is never empty. It's full of gentle stories, waiting to hold us." Max gave a soft sigh, his eyes dreamy. "I think I understand." The fireflies drifted higher, their light swirling slowly above the pond, painting the clearing in a glow softer than moonlight. Max sat quietly, his tail curled around him, his heart filled with calm. He felt as though he was no longer just in the park, he was part of it, written into its hush and light. And as the stars above twinkled brighter, Max knew this journey was only halfway begun. Max sat by the dreaming pond for a long while, his eyes reflecting the shimmering stars that floated across the water's surface. The soft hum of the fireflies above blended with the steady chorus of crickets in the grass, wrapping the clearing in a lullaby too gentle to rush away from. Lila rested nearby, her small body curled neatly on a patch of moss, her ears twitching now and then as if she were already half asleep. But Max, though calm, still felt the tug of curiosity in his little heart. His paws itched to keep walking, to see what other secrets the park might whisper to him before the night grew too late. He glanced at Lila, and as though she could feel his thought, she opened her eyes and smiled softly. "You want to go farther," she said, her voice low and kind. Max lowered his ears shyly, but his tail gave a small wag. "Yes, just a little more. The park feels so big, and I don't want to miss its stories." Lila stretched and stood, shaking the dew from her fur. "Then let us follow the song path. If we listen closely, it will carry us to the quietest part of the park." The fireflies, hearing her words, began to drift toward the trees once more, their glow forming a gentle trail. Max trotted forward, his paws leaving faint glimmers still from the star path he had touched earlier. Together, with the fireflies lighting their way, the puppy and the bunny followed the faint sound of music woven into the night air. It wasn't music like trumpets or flutes, it was deeper, softer. The rustle of leaves swayed like strings. The bubbling fountain far behind was a hushed drumbeat. The calls of night birds bent into notes. The park itself was singing. Max's ears perked higher with every step, his heart slowing into rhythm with the song. They came at last to a grove of tall willow trees, their long branches swaying as though brushing the very earth with tenderness. Lanterns hung from the boughs, not golden this time but silver, their light softer, cooler, like moonlight captured in glass. The air here was stiller, touched only by the slow sweep of willow leaves. Max stopped in awe, his nose twitching at the fresh, calming scent of the grove. Each branch seemed alive, breathing with the hush of night. The song was louder here, though still quiet, like hundreds of whispers blending together into harmony. "This," Lila said, her voice hushed, "is the Grove of Whispers. The park gathers all the dreams from the day and sings them gently back to the earth. If you sit here long enough, you might hear the world's softest stories." Max padded slowly into the grove. He placed his paws on the ground, which felt spongy and cool, like a bed of moss. He curled his tail around himself and listened. At first, the whispers were just sounds, the low swaying of branches, the sigh of the wind, the hum of lantern light. But as he let his ears rest, the whispers began to take shape. He could almost hear words, though they weren't sharp like voices, more like gentle sighs carried by the breeze. One whisper sounded like a mother humming her child to sleep. Another whispered of raindrops sliding down a window. Another spoke of a nest of birds curled close together, breathing in rhythm. Max closed his eyes, his body swaying softly as if rocked by the willows themselves. The little puppy lifted his head and whispered back, almost without knowing why, "I'm listening." The grove seemed to sigh in answer, its branches dipping lower, as though wrapping him in its arms. Lila nestled down beside him, her fur brushing his paw. "This is why the park is special," she murmured. "It holds every soft moment, every calm breath, every dream waiting to be dreamed. It shares them with anyone who listens." Max's tail wagged once, slow and steady. He could feel the calm filling him, seeping into his paws, flowing up through his fur, settling behind his eyes. The park wasn't just a place to walk. It was a place to rest, to breathe, to belong. The fireflies swirled above, their lights dimming to match the hush of the grove. For a long moment, Max simply sat there in silence, listening to the whispers and letting them wash over him. He felt so small beneath the willows, yet so safe, as if the whole night had gathered around just to cradle him. At last, Lila lifted her head. "Come, Max," she said softly. "There's one more place you must see before you go home. It's where the park says goodnight." Max rose slowly, reluctant to leave but curious still. His paws felt heavier now, his body softened by the calm of the grove. Yet he followed, trusting that the night had saved its gentlest secret for last. As they left the grove of whispers, the silver lanterns swayed one last time, their light brushing against Max's fur like a kiss. The whispers followed him, fading slowly but leaving their echo in his heart. And ahead, the fireflies glowed brighter once more, guiding him toward the park's final hush. The fireflies drifted ahead like tiny lanterns, their glow weaving a path through the tall grass. Max followed close behind Lila, his paws pressing gently into the earth, each step slower than the last. The grove of whispers had made him calm and drowsy, but his heart tugged him forward. He wanted to see where the fireflies were leading. The path wound upward, curving like a ribbon until it began to climb a soft, grassy slope. The air here was cooler, touched with the scent of clover and night-blooming flowers. A hush settled over everything, even deeper than before. Max's ears twitched at the stillness. It wasn't empty silence, but a silence full of promise, like the pause before the stars themselves whispered. At the very top of the hill, the park seemed to open into the sky. The grass grew short and velvety, soft as a blanket beneath Max's paws. No trees shaded this place, no lanterns swayed here. Instead, the stars above stretched wide and endless, so close it felt as though Max could leap into them. The moon hung low and round, its glow bathing the hill in silver light. Lila hopped up beside him and settled down, her fur gleaming softly in the moonlight. "This is Goodnight Hill," she said in a voice as gentle as a lullaby. "Every night, the park gathers here to rest. It's the place where even the stars pause to say goodnight." Max's tail swished slowly as he sat down, his eyes wide. The stars above seemed brighter than ever, twinkling as though they were awake just for him. He felt a hush settle into his chest, warm and steady. The fireflies floated in a circle around him, their glow rising and falling like slow breath. They hummed faintly, their tiny lights blinking in rhythm, until their circle formed a crown of soft gold above the hill. The crown drifted lower, resting gently around Max and Lila like a halo of calm. Max tilted his head back and gazed at the sky. For a moment, the stars seemed to move, slowly, carefully, drawing shapes across the darkness. He saw one form the shape of a puppy, its tail wagging. Another shimmered into the shape of a bunny, its ears tall and proud. The constellations seemed to smile down at him, reminding him that he belonged here, in the quiet heart of the night. He pressed his paws into the soft grass, feeling how it cushioned him like a bed. His body felt heavier, softer, as if the hill itself wanted him to curl up and rest. Lila nestled close, her warmth brushing his side. "The hill holds every visitor," she whispered. "It promises that no matter how far they wander, the night will always bring them home to peace. Max gave a tiny sigh, his breath puffing out like a cloud. It feels like the stars are tucking me in, he murmured. They are, Lila replied, her eyes half closed. They're watching over you, and soon, they'll carry you into dreams. Above them, the moon dipped a little lower, its glow gentler now, like a candle slowly dimming. The breeze brushed across the hill, cool and soft, like a hand stroking Max's fur. He lowered his head onto his paws, his tail curling close, his eyelids growing heavier with each breath. The fireflies glow dimmed until they looked like drifting embers, and the whispers of the park seemed to hush, as though the whole world were leaning close, waiting for Max to fall asleep. But before he could drift away, Lila nudged him softly. One last step, Max, she said. Every adventure must end with a journey back. Let the fireflies lead you home, and you'll carry the park's peace with you. Max lifted his head, blinking sleepily, and looked at the glowing trail of fireflies as they began to drift downward from the hill. His heart swelled with calm. He was ready to go home, but he knew he would never forget Goodnight Hill, or the stars that had bent down to tuck him in. With slow, steady steps, he rose and followed Lila down the slope, the crown of fireflies guiding them back toward the winding paths of the park. The night was quieter now, gentler, as if the park itself were preparing for sleep. And Max, the little puppy, knew that soon, he too would rest, curled safe beneath the stars. Max padded slowly down the slope of Goodnight Hill, each paw step softer than the last. The crown of fireflies floated ahead, glowing gently, their light flickering in rhythm with his sleepy breath. Lila hopped beside him, her ears drooping now with drowsiness, her voice no more than a hush. The park around them had grown quieter still, no rustle of branches, no distant bird call, only the soft sound of their steps and the night's slow breathing. The lanterns they had passed earlier glowed dimmer now, as if preparing to rest too. The fountain's lullaby had softened to a whisper, a song so faint it could only be heard in dreams. The dreaming pond lay still as glass, the stars on its surface unmoving, like a quilt pulled snugly over the water. Even the willows in the grove of whispers had gone still, their branches heavy with sleep, their whispers fading into silence. Max's paws grew heavy. His tail, once wagging with excitement, now curled gently against his side. Every step felt slower, as though the park itself was rocking him into calm. He looked up at the sky one last time. The stars twinkled faintly, the moon's glow softer now, like a lantern dimming at the end of the night. It felt as though the heavens themselves were closing their eyes. The fireflies led him and Lila back to the park's entrance, their light slowing, their hums softer. Max glanced at Lila, his eyelids drooping. "Thank you," he whispered. His voice was small but full of warmth. The bunny gave him a sleepy smile. "Every creature has their first night in the park," she murmured, "but only once. Now it will always live in your heart. When you sleep, the park will visit you again, in your dreams." The fireflies floated higher, drifting toward the stars, until only faint specks of gold remained. Max watched them fade, his body already sinking into the weight of rest. Lila gave a final nod and turned back toward the meadow, her fur blending into the hush of grass. Max's human was waiting by the path, their voice gentle as they scooped him up in their arms. He nestled against the familiar warmth, his little nose pressing into the fabric of their coat. His heart beat slow and steady, his body wrapped in peace. He felt safe, as though the whole park had carried him here just to lay him down in comfort. Back home, his human placed him softly in his basket lined with a cozy blanket. Max curled into a ball, his paws tucked under, his tail wrapped snugly around him. The scents of the park lingered faintly on his fur, clover, grass, and the sweetness of flowers. He closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind them, he still saw the glow of lanterns, the shimmer of fireflies, the silver branches of the willow grove. He dreamed of the fountain's song, of the firefly's crown, of the stars bending low to tuck him in. He dreamed of Goodnight Hill, where the sky had felt so close it could wrap him in its arms. And he dreamed of Lila, her quiet voice reminding him that the park's magic would always follow him, even in sleep. As the house grew silent, Max's breaths deepened, soft and steady. The night outside stretched wide and calm, the moon's last glow fading into rest. The world itself seemed to sigh as it settled into slumber, rocking every creature in its arms. And in that hush, a promise lingered in the air: you are safe. You are loved. You are wrapped in the softest dreams. Tonight, and always, you are ready for the sweetest sleep. The stars blinked one last time, the clouds drifted like pillows across the sky, and Max, the little puppy, drifted into dreams so gentle they seemed to last forever. Everything was still.